the meeting now. It's 8:33. Yeah, 3 minutes late. But yeah, we have some technical issues. So welcome everyone, and it's really nice to see everyone to be participant and showing the interest of this the meeting at the online meetings.
Great. So yeah, today we have 4 panelists, and the event is going to be moderated by me and Tintin. So I'm Taufika. I started with Sarus. I am an intern, a staff, and now I am in Sarus's board. Tintin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, sorry. Hi, my name is Tintin. Yeah, I will be a co-moderator with Tufika, and I'm also the service board members. And before that, before we started, we just have one request. If we are not, if there is no questions, can you mute your microphone, because we don't want any background noises and stuff. So it would be nice if you are not talking, please mute the microphone. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, just like a 2 lines introduction to the event. We have 4 amazing panelists who are currently working in Cox's Bazar in the refugee camps, and they are working organizations. So we have Tanzil Fardos, who works at UNHCR. We have Saiba Sahira, who works at World Food Program, and we have Marzan Akhtar and Anika Asghar, who both of them work at Dan Church Aid. And today we are going to hear about their experiences, the work that they have been doing, and also the situation in Cox's Bazar. So yeah, today's event, we have 3 main sections. So in the first section, the panelists are going to give short presentations about their work and their experiences. And then me and Tintin, we are going to have moderated questions for them so that we can go dig deeper into their work and the situation. And then we will have the last section, an open round of questions from the audience. So yeah, do you want to call for presentations?
Yeah, so first let's welcome Anika and Mazen to present their presentations, their organizations.
Okay, so hello everyone, and I'm Marzan. And so as Anika and I, we both work together in the same organization, so we decided to present together today. So I'll be starting, and I'll talk about an overall, I will give you an overall idea and a very brief overview about what Dan Church Aid, so in short DCA, is doing in the Rohingya refugee crisis, and then Anika will gradually take you into deeper to the specific work that we both are doing. And so we both actually work in the same team, so it's the same work for both of us. So she will take you into deeper to that. So once again, welcome everyone, and so here is me presenting DC in the Rohingya Refugee Response Program. So first I'll be talking about the background of DCA. Yeah, so DCA is working in Bangladesh since 1922, but we started working in the response program since November 2017. So after the influx in August, we started working in November. So we mainly focused, at the very beginning, we were focusing more on helping with the, helping them to find shelters in the camp areas, and also working for dignity kits distribution, which have the necessary items that could save them from that vulnerable state. And we initially started working in 2 camps. And so now I will also talk about the programs. So we mainly work on 4 programs that are education, disaster risk reduction, that's DRR, cash and livelihood, and gender-based violence. So cash and livelihood, I won't be giving you a very like I won't talk in detail about that, but I would go to, because it's a very new program that started a month ago. So we are still working on the piloting, and we haven't fixed the program targets yet. So other than that, we are working in three main programs. So the first one is education. We mainly work. It's more focusing on engaging the women and adolescent girls uh, to make them engage in the education activities, so that it helps them to improve their communication and helps them in dealing with basic livelihood activities. The next one is disaster risk reduction. That's the DRR program. For the DRR program, we mainly focus on the protection. Uh, so that's mainly providing the actually working more on the structural about the structures to provide more how would I say, it's more like building structures and where needed, also especially during disaster. Especially this is rain monsoon here in Bangladesh, so it's more their work now. So we're trying to build shelters and also trying to provide them kits that they need, such as like, so we're trying to build solar lamps in the streets of the camp areas, which help them to uh, find their ways during the nights and help them to uh, also feel safer. Next one is the gender-based violence. It's more it mainly focuses on the providing psychosocial support and case management facilities to the women and adolescent girls. So you have been hearing a lot from me about women and adolescent girls. So we're mainly focusing on adolescent girls and women, but we have also recently started working on men as well. But for the GBV, gender-based violence, we also have the uh, this type of facilities, and also in addition to that, for education and gender-based violence activities, we also provide home-based learning and awareness sessions as well. And the other program is the cash and livelihood program, which is a very new program to our DCA. So our main focus is on, as I mentioned, that Anika and I, we work on the same program. We both work on education program. So our main focus is on the literacy and numeracy activities. That is the basic functional literacy and numeracy for the adolescent girls and women, which they can use in their regular dealings, and also they can use for communication, as I mentioned earlier. And then we also have life skill awareness. In this section, we mainly focus on uh, topics such as handling disagreements, then also problem solving, and also we talk about how to take leadership, especially for women in the camp areas. It's a very important thing to do. So we also have facilitators in our team that provides sessions on a regular basis to aware them and to motivate them to take the lead and to be more uh, active while working. And the other component that we have is skills development, which focuses on the activities that can help them earn their livelihood, such as gardening activities, and we also have sewing and then tailoring. So we also have facilitators who are skilled to provide this type of workshops to our right holders in the camp areas. And we've started our activities in 6 different camps now. So we started with 2, but now we spread it in 6 different camps. So now Anika will take you into more detail about the programs.
Thank you, Marsan. I hope you can hear me properly. So I will add a little more to what Marsan said on our main focus. So we have our structure in the different spaces women, and so they can come in and be comfortable and study. The second option that we have is home-based learning. So we will go from door to door and provide them education in their where we do education as well as education related training for women to come into, but then we do not have any restrictions for men or women coming into the space, but we do make sure that when we are having women, we do not have men in the space. So for literacy and numeracy, we are basically, when we talk about literacy, we are doing basic education such as alphabet. Then for life skills and skills development, we have crafting, as you can see in the pictures. We have crafting, sewing, tailoring, and then
Anika, can I interrupt you a little?
Leadership habits and yes.
Sorry, I think your internet bandwidth is low, so and you're breaking out a lot. I think it'll be helpful if you can turn off your video and then speak so that we can hear you. Yeah, we missed a lot of it, so yeah, sorry. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as I was saying, for skills development, we focus on a lot of leadership skills and decision making. So far we have reached about more than 1,000 women in the camps. Initially, we started working with 2 camps, but now we have moved on to 6 camps. And other than working in the Rohingya camp, we are also working in the host communities. So in the host community, we
Anika, I think your internet connection is dropping.
you know.
Yeah, Anika, we cannot hear you anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this better?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So what I was talking about is that other than working in the Rohingya camps, DCA is also working with the host community. So in the host community, we have had 3-day-long trainings where we train the students in schools and also the teachers. So for the students, we had life skill and skill teacher training. Can use low-cost materials and develop products that they can use in their daily life basis. For the teachers training, we had an elaborate teachers training on teaching learning materials, how they can effectively have literacy and numeracy introduction to the students. Mm, so yeah, that's about it. Um, so I guess we have more or less covered everything that happens from DCA in the camps. So what I would like to focus now on is what we do in the camps, like me and Marcel, what we are directly doing in the camps. Am I clear or? Okay, so me and Marzan, we work as the education team leaders, and our work basically is supervising, monitoring, and reporting. So we have education facilitators that work as direct teachers for the women and girls. And then what we do is we are supervising the facilitators. We also work for the capacity building of the facilitators. And one big milestone for this year has been this year that we have developed the curriculum, which is specific to the Rohingya response. So we have developed the curriculum for literacy, numeracy, and skills development. And we were also, me and Marzan, we were involved during the curriculum development. And we are also, so basically we are working as a bridge between the field office and the Cox's Bazar office, as in the camp office and the Cox's Bazar office. We're working as a bridge between them for communication. So we have to, we are also directly involved in field activities as well as in office activities. So yeah, I think I have pretty much covered everything. Sorry for the internet disturbances. I hope I did not miss out on any important topics. And if I did, Marzan, you can maybe.
Yeah, no, I think we both have, you didn't miss the important points, I would say, so yeah. Yeah, so thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Anika and Tanzel. Now I would like to invite Tanzel to present to share her work with us.
Thank you, Tintin. Just going to, just a minute. So can everyone see my presentation? So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this panel discussion. I'm really happy to share my work with you all. So I'm Tanzil Ferdos. I'm one of the alumni of Sarus programs. I have joined two Sarus programs. One is Bangladesh Myanmar Exchange Program. Another one was Sarus Peace Incubator Leadership Program in Indonesia. So currently I'm working in UNHCR in Cox's Bazar, and I've started working here since June 2017. So 2 months before the largest influx happened in Cox's Bazar. So I am going to give you an overview of what our intervention is. And I won't be talking specifically about my role because my role is in programs and coordination, and I am looking at the overall implementation of all our activities. So my role is more of, how we're the backend people who does all the planning, the designing, the implementation, the monitoring, the budget resources, mobilization, etc. So the implementation happens in the field, and we are the ones who are designing and making it happen, sort of, in simple words. So this is starting with one of my pictures in the camp. And I really like this picture because it makes me feel like I'm one of the heroes contributing to the response. This is just a snapshot of our intervention. So as you know, UNHCR is the UN Refugee Agency, and our core mandate is to provide protection, which includes pretty much everything related to refugee needs. So our work is not limited to any specific theme per se, because we cover pretty much everything that is related to refugees, as it is our mandate to provide protection to them. So this is a snapshot from the emergency response when it happened in August 2017. This snapshot is taken as of January 2018, so it is pretty backdated now, but just to give you an example, I have put this in the presentation. So the one above that you can see, plastic sheets, buckets, kitchen sets, mosquito nets, blankets, jerry cans, sleeping mats, these are part of our core relief items that we provide to every individuals or families. So since the onset of the emergency, as of January 2018, we had more than 20 airlifts, which brought life-saving aids to Cox's Bazar. We had over 200 UNHCR staff on the ground. Currently, it's more than 400 staff. We reached more than 155,000 refugees with medical care, and we reached more than 231,000 refugees to provide them access to clean water. So this is an example of us distributing the core relief items to the newly arrived refugees. As you can see, in the beginning, it was extremely crowded, and people were standing in long queues because they just arrived, they didn't have a shelter, they didn't have any basic items with them. As often when people flee from their country, they are taking only basic items with them. So that's why the first thing that we provide is the core relief items. This is also another picture of the refugees taking the core relief items and going to their shelters. This is an example of our shelter assistance that we provide in the camp. So as you know, every operation is unique, because of the climate and the land and the terrain. So in Bangladesh, for example, providing tents is not very appropriate for the climate. So we provide tailor-made assistance. So this is one example where we did not provide tents for the shelter, but we realized that it's more applicable if we provide bamboos and other items through which they can make their own shelter. This is an example of providing medical care and physiotherapy care as well. This is in one of the sessions where we were providing training to our volunteers, who will in turn provide this, do the awareness sessions for the refugees. This is a picture of our vaccination program, whereby we ensure that every child is getting vaccinated. This picture is from one of our TLC, which is a teaching learning center. We don't really have schools over here, but we have TLCs and child-friendly spaces where we provide education through a learning framework, because we believe that it's extremely important to provide them education, even if they're here or they're going back. It will help them in the future and now. This is one of the pictures which I have put up in the presentation just to show you how traumatized the children were in the beginning and also now. This is a picture drawn by a refugee child where they're showing the helicopters dropping the bomb on the houses, and their houses are on fire. And in below, you can see the child has drawn some people swimming and other people in the boats. This was the situation when they were fleeing from the conflict, which is why we focus a lot on mental health for children and for adults. It's different programs going on, but we have a huge intervention in mental health activities. Another example of our big project, one of them is site improvement activities. As you can see, the terrain where the refugee camps are, it's not flat. It's a really difficult terrain in terms of topography. So we continuously have to work to make the land more flat and more livable, and also to ensure that disaster risk is reduced. People are relocated from high landslide areas and so forth. This is a huge project undertaken by UNHCR, WFP, and IOM, which is called Site Management Engineering Project, where a hill was flattened through refugee laborers and big machineries. And then it was turned into a model camp, which turned out to be really planned and organized. So this is also in that camp where you can see people digging a huge drainage canal so that during the monsoon period, it reduces the risk of flooding and landslide. The result of all this work was this, which you can see turned out to be really well. It's one of our model camp. It's well organized, and the risk of landslide in this camp is lower. Just to give you an example, in overall, there are 33 camps, refugee camps in Cox's Bazar. And this is one of the camp, which is very well organized. Not all of them are like this. This is one of our volunteer, who is called Safety Unit Volunteer. So just like him, we have a lot of volunteers in different programs who are doing awareness campaigns. This person's particular role is to be a firefighter. He has received trainings for cyclones and also first aid in terms of emergency health needs. So we do a lot of work through community outreach volunteers who are involved in different types of activities. This is in one of the camp where I was doing a focus group discussion with one of the refugee households to assess our impact of our interventions. So we often do what we call is post-distribution monitoring after all our activities. And we always, through participatory method, we always try to include the refugee voices and their feedback into our programs. This is again a snapshot of, someone has asked how many people are there in the camps. So there are over 900,000 refugees currently in all the camps. And there are statistics, which is 52% amongst the refugees are women and children. And this is a snapshot of all our activities whereby we have divided by protection, shelter, wash, health, and etc. This is a huge report. I've just put it, it's a public document which can be taken from the internet, but basically we have a lot of interventions, some of which are given here. And this is just to show that my role is to plan all these interventions and monitor them, monitor their success, monitor their failure, find the resources to implement them. This is a picture of a refugee child who is coloring one of our tents. And this is a happy picture. for us, and this is why I've put it, because not everything is sad. But what I believe in is that it's the refugees' resilience that makes their lives better, not our response. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Denzel, for the very insightful presentations. And of course, after that, we will have a discussion questions later. So yeah, we'll let the audience will ask you questions and everything. And then now let us invite Cyber, who is also working at the WFO WFO program. So.
Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, that's good because there's something really wrong with my computer. Hi everyone, I am Saiba. Let me share my presentation with you. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I am not going to be able to share my video. Apparently my camera is not working. So I am Saiba. I am working for World Food Program here in Cox's Bazar since February last year, which is, February 2018. I work in the disaster risk reduction program here. So I'm sorry, I will be a little bit slow because I can, after I finish my sentence, I actually hear it back. So it's very annoying. Let me take a little help from my roommate here. Just a minute. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. I am going to be
Echo coming
I'm going to give you an overall picture of specifically my program in WFP.
Cyber, there is an echo behind you.
I know. This is what's happening to my computer. I don't know how to fix this.
Saiba, I think the issue may be that you're logged in under 2 devices. So I think we're picking up some feedback because of that. So if you can log out of one of your devices from this meeting, I think it might solve the problem.
Okay, let me try this. I don't know how to do it. Hello?
It's still echoing. Maybe you can just use Tanzo's computer and her headphone.
So give me a minute, I'll just transfer. I will just transfer. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I got it. So I will just transfer my presentation to Tanzo's computer. Give me a minute. I'm so sorry about this delay. But
in the meantime, we can take any questions if you have.
Yes, please.
Okay, we've had, I think one question is in the box from Ashvina. As an example, DCA works with 6 out of 33 camps. What of the other 27? Are there similar agencies working in other camps? Is there collaboration? Is anyone coordinating? Do all receive equal access to resources?
That's a very good question. So the 33 camps are administered by UNHCR and IOM. IOM is International Organization for Migration. So in Cox's Bazar, there are 2 agencies that these 2 UN agencies are taking the lead in the response. And there is a coordination group, which is called Intersector Coordination Group. So under the umbrella of Intersector Coordination Group, which is also a UN body, all the agencies are working under the partnership of either UNHCR or IOM, or with their own funding, but collaborating in the ISCG level with both of the agencies. So does that answer your question?
We can maybe come back to it later on. We have other questions, and I received some other people shared their questions with me privately as well. Saba, did you fix your technical issue?
I did.
Okay, great. Can we start?
I am positive that I did. Just give me a second now. It should be fixed.
Sure. Great.
Okay, hopefully you can see it now.
Yeah. Yeah. We can start with Saiba's presentation. And yeah, just a quick note, I have taken notes of all the questions. You can share them yourselves after, during our Q&A session, or I can also remind you what are the questions we had. So yes,
right,
Saiba, over to you.
Okay. So I'm going to start with an overview of my program specifically. I'm working for Disaster Risk Reduction Program in WFP, United Nations World Food Program. As I was saying before, I started working with WFP back in 2018, February. And the influx happened on the 25th of August, 2017. So we did take a few months to plan our program, and then DRR basically started with us. So yeah, so let's go ahead and see, an overview of the camp now. And how to move this. Okay. So there are a few things that I'm going to cover. The overview of the camp, DRI interventions, and what we are doing in the camps and our way forward. And there will be a little picture presentation because I like to show my work. So WFP in general, our mandate is to be working with food. We work with food security. We are globally, we are focused on 2 SDG goals, which is the first one is zero hunger, and the second one is building partnership, building global partnership. So for the first one, WFP has been working in Bangladesh since, I think, 1975. But this is one of the biggest operations for WFP, and I believe for many other UN agencies as well. This influx was a very sudden one, I would say, and not just security-wise, but also for the the amount of human beings coming into from one place to another place. It just became an L3 emergency all over, overnight. So let's look at the camp. This is a satellite image of the camp. The picture on your left is an image taken, before the influx. I would say early 2017, or early August 2017. It's a green forest, as you can see. So the influx happened in Ukia and Cox's Bazar, and this is how Ukia used to look like before. And you can see within a month, I would say early August 2017 and late August 2017 or September 2017. It's a huge difference. It's a lot of shelter all over the Ukia and Teknaf region. So it was 7,000 hectares of forest land turned into shelters, you know, and a place of a settlement overnight. So most of these forest areas has been covered by shelters, and the wood needed for the shelter came out of the forest, and also the firewood to make food came out of the forest. So you can see that it was 7,000 hectares of full forestry land, which was, you know, brought under, you know, a settlement. That obviously hampered the environmental degradation. Hampered as in, yeah, that obviously affected the environment a lot. And Bangladesh is in general a very disaster prone country. We have floods, we have earthquake, we have floods, earthquake, and we have landslide, you know, in hilly areas. And this is a very specific soil type in the Ukia and Teknaf region, the hilly areas. The soil type is actually, you know, it is absorbent of water, and whenever it absorbs water, it will just slide down. So it is very important to have trees so that it can, you know, hold the soil down. This is what happened to the camps. I mean, to the Ukia and Teknaf area after the influx, and we are currently working on mitigating or reducing the risk of disaster in the area. So there are in general 34 camps. This is a very old map that's been shown in the picture. There are, I think, 2 more camps added now. And there are above 1.3 million FDMNs, which stands for Forcibly Displaced Myanmar Nationals. Now let's talk about DRR interventions a little bit. I will try to be fast. I am in general a fast speaker. But this is, yeah. Let me know if I'm annoying you guys. Yes, so DRR started with a perspective of food security, since WFP's mandate is to look at the food security section, while UNHCR obviously is looking at a lot of other things. We are looking at the food security for the refugee population in Ukia and Teknaf. From a food security perspective, we have our general food distribution points. We have our e-voucher shops, which are the retail shops. We have our nutrition points. We have our school feeding centers. So these specific infrastructure, which are not permanent infrastructure in the camps, someone has to be taking care of them during monsoon, during the cyclone. We are responsible. The disaster risk reduction unit of WFP is responsible to take care of that. So we started with this this idea that we will be working for the resilience of WFP infrastructures. We had interventions in only WFP infrastructures and ensuring that the accessibility of food for the refugees and also for the okay, I'm so sorry. Yes, so accessibility for food for the beneficiaries and also for the trucks to be able to come in and bring the food, you know, to the refugees is open for everyone. So it is important because no one else is going to intervene in that and take care of the food security part if WFP does not. And WFP has a lot of different units working on their own core you know, mandate. So, you know, disaster risk reduction came out of that idea. Now let's talk about a very specific modality that we use in disaster risk reduction. So our work is also mostly site improvement work. So we not only focus on WFP infrastructures, but then we work in community-based work because the whole accessibility has to be ensured towards food. So we focus on a cash for work modality. The idea is that food security WFP can not only ensure food security through providing rice, pulses, and oil from the general food distribution points and 19 different items in the retail shop.
people have different needs. People have needs of getting meat. People have needs of getting different kinds of vegetable that they like. We have cultural differences as well. We not always know what kind of food people will require. It is important that they have access to a little bit of cash, which will ensure that they will be able to meet their basic needs of food, medicine, I don't know, maybe clothes as well. So this is why we adopted the cash for work modality, and our work is based on very labor intensive work. So it is, if you can see, DRI is pulled into two different directions. One is building resilient structures, which requires machinery work. One is cash for work modality, which requires labor intensive work and no use of machinery at all. This has been a difficult, this has been a difficulty for us. This has been a challenge for us, but we have been doing it, I guess, quite well. So yeah. So till now we have had 500 plus resilience interventions inside the camps, from, I would say, 700 plus from February till now. We have been working with WFP infrastructures, access road, site maintenance work, slope stabilization work. We not only have work in the refugee camps, but also outside of the refugee camps, we are working with host communities in building the cycle shelters. So we are working with the rehabilitation of cycle shelters. Till now, we have had 40 cycle shelters rehabilitated, which is completely a host community-based work and not the refugee-based work. This year, we are also planning to have 40 more cycle shelters rehabilitated, and it has the same model of cash for work. So however we are doing it in the camp, with refugees involvement, we are doing the same with host community involvement in host community. We have had biological solution for land stabilization work. We have had 41.26 hectares of land stabilized. Forestry done. With the help of FAO. We have been in partnership with FAO, and we have had 12 partners, both NGOs and INGOs. Yes, so 3 primary focus. One is the enhancing disaster resilience work inside the camps. The other one is the reforestation activity, and the other one is the cyclone shelter work outside of the camps, which is focusing in host community. Now, the way forward is to reach 30,000 households per month. For the time being, we're reaching 10,000 households per month, which is, according to our program planning, it's not too bad, but we have to do better. So by December, our scale-up plan is to reach 30,000 families per month. And when I say reaching 30,000 families, that means we'll have participants from 30,000 households who will be working in the cash for work modality with disaster risk reduction. Yes, we are working with Handicap International, and our internal gender and disability inclusive protection unit is also working with us to make sure that our program is focusing on all community-based approaches, so that we have women's involvement in the camps, which is difficult, but we can get there. And we have disability inclusive approach as well. One thing that we are missing currently is proper mapping of the work that we are doing. So we are, this is a way forward for us. We are planning to implement that as soon as possible. The participatory evaluation is very necessary. It has been done before, but it is also in plan. And now let's go to the picture presentation. These are some of the works that we're doing in the camps. The first one is basically, if you can see, the lake is in between 3 different blocks. So we built bridges to combine all 3 different blocks, not only for the households to be able to move from one place to another, but also it also brings the public services, brings it to other blocks, like it makes it accessible for other people. Okay, so these are the before and after pictures of some of the access road works that we're doing in the camps. This is a disability inclusive approach from WFP. This is one of our, on the left, it is one of our help desks, which has a which has a disability friendly pathway or a ramp. And in the other picture, you can see how our participants are getting involved in our different activities. These are also some of our works. We're doing pedestrian bamboo bridges, some slope stabilization work, steer pathway. This is a very good project of ours, which is the biological slope stabilization. I was very much involved in this project. I was the focal point of this one. I did very good. This is our rehabilitation of cycle shelter work. It is not only painting. This is some real work done inside. Yeah, that's it. I tried to be fast, but I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I think we are ready for questions. Yay! Okay, done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the presenters who are explaining all their hard works. And we were when we were planning this meetings, we were worried that there might not be a lot of questions and stuff. So we are brainstorming some questions, but it seems like the audience is very active, and we know that you are dying to ask questions, but we also have our own questions. So we'll start with our own questions, and then maybe you might get your answer to our questions, but if you have some other questions, like follow-up questions, you can ask them later. And there is questions that we want to ask for all the four prisoners, like what are the key what key needs are not being addressed in Cox's Bazar, and what more can be done in each of your own organizations. I can type the questions in the chat box.
Anyone can start.
That's actually a very broad question. That what are the needs in Cox's Bazar? There are millions of needs. Just to start with, there is, for example, a joint response appeal by all the actors working here, which has a 920 million appeal for 2019 Rohingya Response Program, and not even 30% of it is funded until now, as far as I remember, and we are already in the month of July, second half of the year. So you can imagine of the vast needs of the 70% of the 920 million, which involves all the sectors and all the actors in Cox's Bazar to meet the needs of the Rohingya refugees. So yeah, that's just one answer, and others can add.
I would actually like to stress on the matter that there is, even if we are talking about environmental degradation a lot, we don't know what's going to we don't see the future. We don't know in 2 years where it's going to be. We have to make sure that it is we are doing our best to make the place that they are in resilient, so that they don't just wash away when there's a huge flood or there's a landslide. There has been occurrence of that, so I would say we're doing our best with this MAP intervention, which is the site maintenance engineering program with UNHCR, IOM, and WFP, which Tanzil mentioned, with programs like disaster risk reduction from WFP, which is looking at the bigger picture. DCA is also doing some work. These work has to be focused more on environmental, the whole environmental stability of it, because I would say we are cutting down hills, thinking of the refugees. Yes, we are doing it. We are ensuring that they are moving to a better place, but in an overall picture, the environment is degrading, and we have to come up with an I would say, how do you say it, invention, or welcome scientific solutions, better scientific solutions, to ensure that the environment remains
livable for these people, for the refugees, for the host community people as well. So this is one thing that we have to focus on as well.
So for me, when I was listening to the question, the first thing that came up as I was talking, that DCA is focusing more on adolescent women and girls. Working in the camp areas for last 1 year, what I felt is that more intervention is required for the male refugees. So talking to us also the adolescent male members, because like when we were working or collaborating with other organizations and going to different trainings and meeting new people, and always the thing that comes up is that people are working or focusing more on children and adolescent girls or women, but what my feeling was that more intervention is required in terms of raising awareness among the male community in the camps as well.
And adding,
Go ahead, Anika.
adding to what I said, I would also think for education, what happens a lot of times when we try to reach out to adolescent women, adolescent girls and women, a lot of elderly women are also interested to participate. However, we do not have a direct program for them for education. Another factor that is not being illiterate in the Rohingya camps, and they are interested in studying. But I do not think any program is particularly focusing on elderly women or men to be in the education sector.
Great. Okay, that actually brings out the space for our next question. This will be our last question from my and Tintin's side, and then we will open up for questions from the audience. So the next question that I would like to invite the panelists to answer is, what challenges are you experiencing as a woman working in this context and in this working environment? Yeah. I will type the question here, and anyone feel free to jump in to answer.
So, as a woman, I mean, in general, as a woman, we face many obstacles, but particularly related to our work, I would say from the beginning, it has been a challenge to take on a leadership role. Particularly, I would talk about my work, which has a lot to do about coordinating, and where people have to listen to me, in short. So it has been a challenge from the beginning to kind of establish that role, that as a woman, I am also a credible human being and has knowledge, has experience, and can take a team forward with leadership, or I have valuable opinions that should be taken into account. So this in general is, I think, an issue that a lot of women face in their workplace. Other than that, yes, it's when we go to the camp as well, it's we have to think about the cultural context. We have to think about how we carry ourselves, how we talk to people, about our safety and security more than males, I would say. So this is also an issue, but then I think there are more issues that are faced by the refugee women, or the places where we work. Our beneficiaries, first it can be host community or refugee women, rather than us. But yes, it is true that in terms of work as well, the ratio between men and women is not balanced, is not equal. So women are lower in number. We often hear things like, like how are you going to Cox's Bazar being away from your family, living alone and working? This is like a shock for a lot of people, whereas men coming in and working here is absolutely fine, taken normally. So these are the type of things which often we have to face. There are obstacles all the time. There are many other women who wants to come here for the experience of work but are not allowed by their family. For example, there are field workers who are working in the camps or outside and are facing different types of harassment. So these are the normal types of challenges that I would say we face regularly.
One of the things that I would like to add was coming from all of the panel members here are from AUW, Asian University for Women. It was, how big the operation is in Cox's Bazar and how there are so many internationals. It was very surprising to come in and see that the national staff who have already been working in Cox's Bazar were very surprised and sort of not being able to take how vocal we were and how strong our opinion, strong and opinionated girls were. And WFP in particular has taken in a lot of AUW students. And it was like, all of a sudden another influx in WFP of all these, strong independent women. And it was a bit of a shock for some other people, I guess. So it was a bit tough for me to getting into the environment, working environment, and I have not worked before. So so yeah, this was quite I would say not difficult, but challenging at the beginning. But it's all good now, and I think we're doing very good. We kept the name, so yeah. Yeah, this is from the office experience. Outside of that, culturally, Cox's Bazar is a bit tough. It's a conservative area. Working in the camps has been difficult because of all the reasons that Tanzil was also talking about. One thing that was easier actually to get related or to be able to get the beneficiaries or the women in the camps during the focus group discussions to become more open when we were in it, when the women were talking to them. So this is one of the positive things, and I would like to see more women involvement, which is happening in the camps, and this is how we're bringing in more beneficiaries, more refugees to speak for themselves as well. Yeah, thanks.
Just to add to what Tanzil and Sabapu were telling, that how challenging it is as a woman to work in this context. So for, I think Anika would also agree, because for both of us, we've been leading teams of 8 members directly, but other than that, we also have to supervise and monitor a team of 35 members, which is very challenging. And also being fresh graduates and starting as team leaders, it was very challenging, because at the very beginning the acceptance from the I would say from the office environment, like how did you come at such a young age, or like my manager was also telling to me that at such a young age, how did you manage to like come, or like when she was hiring me, she was very impressed by my experiences that I've gained, and she was like, you're very young for this position, but I'm proud, like I feel confident about you and I know you can do it. So she also knew that it's a very new experience for me, or it's a challenge for me to start my career into. But then gradually the acceptance, the acceptance from my team members was getting normalized. But from the Rohingya community, or like us being women, going directly to the camps or visiting their homes. And as Saibapu was also already mentioning, that how conservative the mindset of the people are in Cox's Bazar, but it's more conservative in the camps as well. So it's very challenging, because there were times when we used to overhear, or while passing through different households, that why female are coming here. And when they used to, some of the Rohingya women, they used to, like, during the focus group discussion, used to ask that where do I live, and what am I doing here. So they used to be very surprised hearing that I'm not a person living in Cox's Bazar, I'm from outside of Cox's Bazar. So the acceptance from the host, from the office environment, also from the camp areas, it's like a bit challenging for us to work when we work.
I would also like to share my experience. Um, so, as Marzan said, we are working directly with women and girls in education, and we're running a team of 35 women, and we're all women working in the education sector over here. So it gets very challenging for us, being all women working in the camps, because just giving a one little example. So what we do in the camps is that sometimes we are holding community meetings with female members as well as male members to understand their needs, their challenges, and how else we can help them through education. Also to build more acceptance for women education in the camp. So when we are having meetings with female members, it's very easy to communicate with them. However, since we are an all-women team, when it comes to male members, they are not willing to talk to us. They do not want to have a meeting with a team where there is not a single male presence. So it gets very challenging. We, for instance, for the last meeting we had, we organized, we invited them, and we were sitting there for 1.5 hours. And they were also sitting with us, but not ready to talk to us. They would just not communicate unless and until we bring a male member. So these are the kind of challenges. It's just one example, but in for education, especially women education is very sensitive in the camps. And to gain acceptance, I mean, we've been working for over a year now with education. Even then, at this point, we haven't really been able to get the acceptance of the community, the Rohingya community, with women education. And we're constantly fighting for the acceptance and constantly trying to have community engagements so that we are more, so that we can more, so that there is more acceptance for us, but it's a constant challenge. As for my personal experience, when I came to work here in Rohingya camps, there were a lot of instances where people told me that being a woman and being a fresh graduate, this is not a very good option for me, because it's going to really demotivate me from working here. But what I feel like is that I'm very lucky that I got a team of very wonderful, supportive women. We are supporting each other, and we are trying to cope up with the challenges together. So there has been a lot of challenges, but on the brighter side, we're constantly trying to go through them and break the barriers of the community people and try to gain more acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you all. So now we don't have too much time left, but we have a lot of questions, which is a good thing. We would really love to have some other voices in the event. So before I read out the questions that we have had in the chat box, I would like to invite the audience to, if you have already put your question in the chat box, please feel free to unmute yourself and share your question verbally here, and our panelists can answer them. So yeah, if anyone is interested to ask their question right now, please go ahead.
I guess I'll start here. Is
Absolutely.
there a goal to, I guess another question came up whether they were going to repatriate, but is the goal to turn this temporary housing into permanent housing in Bangladesh?
There has not been a discussion about that, and as most of the people who are working in the camps would know, that there is no permit for doing permanent structures in the camps at the moment. The highest we can do is semi-permanent structures, and not for the shelters, that also for public services. For example, the general food distribution points or nutrition points or any other public services like maybe healthcare. But currently there has been no discussion on that, on doing permanent shelters. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else with any other question?
So if I could go ahead and follow, hi, my name's Ashvina. So if I could follow in the vein of repatriation, for you ladies who are working in the field, have families talked about repatriation? What are their hopes and fears? How are they talking about it? If it's being discussed at all, is the word repatriation something that they even engage with, or a concept that they understand? Thank you.
Anyone else want to add to that? Or we can move to the next question. Okay, so next question, anyone else?
I feel like my question's a bit of a longer one, but so maybe I can just ask it later, since I know all four of these amazing, wonderful, inspiring panelists. But I just wanted to say I'm so inspired by your stories and the important work you're doing. A question I would love to hear, I know that so much is told through stories, and so I'd love to hear what each of you are most proud of in your work. If there's like a moment that stands out to you, maybe of like just a particular day, a particular program where you felt really proud of what you contributed, I would love to hear that.
Hi, Karen. So nice to see you. So you were asking about our proud moment in our work, for our contribution that we made. For me, I'll be very outspoken and say that it's every day, because it's a lot of work. So it's a lot of work, as in my work used to be field-based before. I was going to the camps every day, and not only that, it was not the work that I was worried about. It was seeing the situation in the camp, which I would say had a difficult effect, rather than doing the work itself or walking on the streets in the camp. So actually, you know what, walking on the mud in the camps, there were no streets before. But yeah, so it's there's no particular moment that I would say I can actually think of now. But overall, I think I think I like what I'm doing. I think it has an impact on people. I'm contributing to change, and not only to the specific group of people, or it's a global approach. It's a change in the global approach towards refugees, towards forcibly displaced people. So yeah, and that's me. Okay, thanks.
So my experience of what just like Saiba said, I'm pretty sure about Marzan and Anika that they'll share the same sentiment, but we are actually very proud working here every day. something that I said to a friend once is it's really satisfying when your passion turns into your work. So it's not really you're working just for working or a job. It's what I'm passionate about as well. And like just to give an example, one day I remember last year, 2018, from the beginning of the influx in August 2017, work has been really difficult over here because we were constantly trying to respond to an emergency which had several emergencies within emergencies. So there were times when people used to ask me, why do you work until so late, etc., etc. But it's difficult to make people understand that why you are constantly in the office, why you're working so late. But there was this one particular day when, since I'm not in the field, I'm more of an office-based person who is often in the backstage and not seen from the front. It's not, so people don't see us. So let's say a field-based person would come and say that, oh, what are you doing in the office? You guys don't even go to the field. So it's really difficult to make people understand that what you're doing in the field, you're being able to do it because we are doing the work in the back. So there was one day during monsoon when I remembered there were landslides happening, and it was my team and the procurement team, we were working until midnight just so that everything was ready and delivered in the field in the morning, first hour, so that our field colleagues can distribute. So it was that moment when one of my friend external was calling me and asking that, what are you doing in the middle of the night in the office? And I said that I can go home if I want to, but if I do, then refugees will suffer tomorrow. That's what I don't want. Maybe I am putting in a drop of water in a big pond or in a big sea, but this drop of water is really important right now. So these are the, I think, proud moments that we have, that we don't know what is the impact of our contribution, but we know that there is an impact. And it's not for us, it's for the refugees, it's for the people, so that they don't suffer. Because if we think that, okay, let me take a moment back, let me go home and rest for a little bit, you might never know that there will be people suffering just because we are delaying the work. So yeah, that's my experience.
So I would share the first thing that my line manager said. So there have been times when I used to feel stressed because the work is difficult, as Sanzilapo mentioned. It's not easy. So seeing the situation, like witnessing the scenario in the camp areas, it's very stressful, and you also feel a lot of emotions at the same time while working. So I remember once my line manager said that, don't worry, but if your work changes at least one person's life or make a significant but small change in someone's life, then you're doing something good. So that's something I always remember. And also I had a job interview while working with DCA. I went to give a job interview somewhere else, and they were asking me about my current job, and I was very, very offended with one of the questions. But then I came back and reflected back on the things that I've been doing, and I shared this with my line manager when she told this very specific thing. So I was really proud at that moment that it's not always important to explain everyone else what you're doing. If you believe that you're doing something good and you're really passionate about it, that's enough. And another proud moment was that during our education activities, we also hire volunteers who provide support to the facilitators who have been providing different awareness sessions and education sessions. So we have different cycles. So there were time that we finished one cycle, and the beneficiaries that we taught or that attended our sessions, they, after finishing the cycle, they joined as our volunteers. So that was a moment of success, and also I really felt proud that, okay, this is the impact of the work that we've been doing. Yeah, so these are the two moments. Thank you.
I would just like to add to what Michael said. Um, so they're working in the Rohingya camp, like we already talked about it, is how challenging it gets in terms of even reaching the camps when there is bad weather, bad traffic condition, bad roads. And there have been days when there were landslides, heavy rainfall. There have been risks going to the camps. And we could have just been like, let's just skip education for today. But we chose not to do that. No matter how difficult the situation got, we decided to reach the camps and provide our daily education. And honestly, there have been days when, not days, honestly, every day I honestly think of going back home, because the work is like really, really challenging. It's just so challenging and very like this that Marzan shared, when you're teaching completely uneducated. Okay, internet issue. So what I was saying is, when you're teaching completely uneducated women, and they come to a point where they have learned and they can now actually go and help their community members in learning. To that point, I think that is a really proud moment for us. It just makes up for all the stress you take and all those days you think of going back home.
Great. So we have less than 5 minutes left, but maybe we can just go a little bit overboard with the time just to make sure that we kind of answer some very important questions, if everyone is okay with that. Maybe 5 minutes more, 5 to 10 minutes more. Okay, if there is any objection, please feel free to let us know. Yeah, just anyone else with would want to share any question, even if you have typed it in the chat box, please feel free to share those, because we would love to hear your voice. Yeah, someone who maybe hasn't had a chance to ask a question yet. Would you want to read out your own question from the chat box, or I can do that as well?
Hi. So my question is, how did you enter this field of work in the first place, and what led you to make the decision of actually working in Casas Bazar?
Sorry, what was the question? Can you please repeat?
Like, how did you enter the field in the first place? Like, how did you decide to actually enter this field, if that makes sense?
I'm sure everyone has a different story. My story of entering this field of work is when I was studying in my university, I was doing a lot of community service work, and I heard a few things about the Rohingya refugee crisis, but I didn't know about it in detail. So that's when it struck my mind that there are refugees living in my country for a long time, for more than 25 years, and I don't know much about them. So I think I saw a documentary once about the Rohingya refugees in one of my class, and that's when I got curious to know more about them and to work for them. And that's when I reached out to one of the photojournalists I know. And I said that I want to work for them. I want to know more about them. And this was way before the influx happened in August 2017. So I came here and I met some of the refugee women. I was doing interviews with them. I was talking with refugee kids. And I did a small research on my own. It was nothing formal. It was just to know about them. And then I applied for an internship with UNHCR because I felt that if I want to know more about them and work for them, UNHCR is the best possible platform because it's the UN Refugee Agency. So that's when I applied for an internship in June 2017. And fortunately, I got selected as an intern. So I came down to Cox's Bazar and I started working as an intern. And just after 1.5 months, the influx happened. And when the influx happened, it was actually during Eid. 2 days before we had our second Eid, which is the sacrificing Eid for Muslims. It's one of the biggest religious festivals celebrated in Bangladesh. So everyone was away in their home, celebrating Eid with families. And I remember right after Eid, we started seeing the news that Rohingya started arriving in Bangladesh, and it was a mass influx. Like thousands of people were crossing the border and entering Cox's Bazar. And it was like, I think 3-4 days. And my personal experience is I actually had an accident right after Eid. So I was prescribed by the doctor to be in bed rest. But I remember that I was seeing the news and I was telling my family and friends that this is happening in Cox's Bazar. I cannot just sit in my home. I need to go back. So I came back and I started working in the field, even though I was not medically fit. But that's when, I just couldn't stop myself from coming back here and helping in whatever capacity I can. And then after 2 months, my internship ended, but it was still peak time for the refugee influx. A lot was going on, a lot had to be done, but my internship was completed and I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything else to do in Cox's Bazar, and my family was asking me, what are you still doing in Cox's Bazar? You don't have a job. So I told them that I will look for a job, and until I find a job, I will stay here, but I cannot leave this place because I think I experienced what is called the secondhand trauma. I saw people with wounded bullet shots. I saw burnt children. I saw people crossing the borders in like chest height of water. So it was so traumatizing for not only me, the other people who are working in the border, helping them to cross or giving them hot meals, providing them with immediate assistance, that I couldn't just forget all that and get back to a comfortable life or do something else. So I decided that I will look for a job, whatever it is. I will stay here until I find it. And then eventually, I think because I was so determined and dedicated towards it, I did manage to secure a job again with UNHCR within a month. And I think I was the youngest employee in UNHCR when I joined as an employee. So that's actually how I made the decision to work in Cox's Bazar and to stay here. Now it has been more than 2 years that I'm here. And yeah, that's my story.
Thanks. Thanks, Tanzil, for sharing your story. Even though I'm sure we would all love to hear your stories, but then I am hearing requests from other people to answer some other questions. So maybe what we can do is that we can post in our event page of your stories of how you entered, because yeah, time is running out. I'm so sorry. Yeah, can we maybe move on to there was a request to answer David's question about who helps with peace building and conflict prevention and resolution. Yeah, and then, yeah, I have another emergency question request that I will go on. Maybe one of you can answer this. Who helps with peace building and conflict prevention and resolution?
I'll take this real quick. We don't have the mandate of from WFP. We're not working with the mandate of, I would say, peace building in the camps. But I think this is a cross-cutting that every program in every organization with different units, with different mandates, have to take in charge of. We are from our organization, I would say, we are working on this project because if you think about it, the camps have available, I would say, not really jobs, but available opportunities of being involved in some kind of activities for children, I would say, because they are going to schools, they are going to temporary learning centers, TLCs. And people who are above 18, they are getting involved in the cash for work activities, either by WFP, by UNHCR, by other agencies like PCA maybe. But there is this gap of 13-year-old to 18-year-old, the youth population who have literally I would say no involvement. I don't know which agency is specifically working on youth leadership or bringing in kids of 13 to 18 to do something in the camps. But we are looking from our program, we're looking into a project which would actually build an opportunity for the kids of this age, 13 to 18, to have peace leadership or like community involvement. We have this project coming in for livelihoods program, which one of the ideas is that this project would help the youth of 13 to 18 to get involved in peace dialogues, and also in cyclone preparedness activities. We have a very big host community people involved in the cyclone preparedness program, which is we call it CPP. So we would have dialogue from the host community and also the refugee community, so that there's sort of like at least an initiative of creating a dialogue between them. Yeah, this is one of the approaches that we are taking in, but I'm not sure if some other organization is specifically looking at this peace leadership role. Thanks.
Okay, another common question that we had is how are the actors dealing with problems like trafficking, drugs, and related problems like this? Anyone? Or we can also talk about like, is it a problem? Or how much of it is a problem in the camps?
Or have your organization is dealing with some type of like those problems? Or
would anyone like to answer that, if possible? It's okay if you don't have the answer. We can move on to the next question.
yeah.
I would just very quickly share my experience. DCL also works with gender-based violence. where we have, and I'm sure all the other organizations working with child protection and general protection, they all have to deal with trafficking issues. And it is actually it is actually a prevalent issue in the camps. Um, so I think uh, organizations that are working with protection, gender-based protections, are handling this. What happens is in all the camps we have the CICs. So these are the camp coordinators that take care of everything happening in the camp, and everything entering into the camp and leaving the camp, it needs their permission. So if you want to enter, you need permission. If you want to do anything in the camp, you need to take permission from the CICs. If anybody wants to leave the camp, as in the Rohingyas or anyone from the Rohingya community wanting to leave the camp would also require permissions. So we are taking as much of safety measures as we can for preventing trafficking. Since I do not directly work with it, I cannot directly answer specific questions on it. But from my general knowledge, what I know is this is the measures that are being taken. For traffickers being caught, I don't think we have any kind of direct punishment for them or any measures that we can take from them other than being aware. So yeah, that's as much as it is to my knowledge. So if anybody has anything more on it.
Thank you, Anika. We have another question. Maybe this can be one of our last questions, and before we, close this off. So the question is, if you be working in the refugee camps and with the refugees, do you have any concerns for the host community? Do you have any fear for what are the impacts which is happening on the host community, or something that you foresee happening to the host community in Bangladesh? Yeah. So the last question. So we have had questions about people, like how can people help in this situation? We have had questions about how can Rotarians help. So if any one of you can just answer, sitting in that situation and working there, how do you think people outside the country help and contribute positively to improve the whole situation?
Just to answer really quick, someone mentioned about one of the Rotarian from Winnipeg. We did meet him, Professor Kausar, I think. We did meet him. He was in Cox's Bazar, and we spoke about his project. And I personally think it's a really great project, but it needs a little bit of work because he's now trying to develop the curriculum and etc. And peace building and conflict resolution as such, like Saiba mentioned, it is a cross-cutting issue, and it is integrated in all the programs and activities that we do, because we do take into account about do no harm approach, participatory approach, and conflict resolution is a regular thing that goes on. There are some specific peace building initiatives as well by some of the organizations, but it's not that much in number, I would say, at least not right now, because we are more focused on life-saving emergency assistance. And so that, takes much more priority than this type of tertiary programs, I would say. But if people from outside of the country would like to come and help, then absolutely, there is a lot of gaps over here. It just has to be coordinated and with other agencies, with the lead actors over here. Anything that is done single-handed is not that successful over here, at least not right now, because there are many other actors and then it creates a chaos. So of course, people from outside, if they want to help, they're more than welcome. It just needs to be done in a more coordinated way.
I would like to add something over here. I would say every refugee crisis every refugee crisis has to be contextualized, yes, but what we are getting from the people who are bringing in experiences from other places, other countries, that is I believe that is valuable. That adds to sort of modeling or designing our projects and thinking of a further vision, thinking of where it can go. So that is something that I would say people who are coming from outside are bringing in as well, from their experiences of working outside of the country, working with emergencies, working with refugee crisis beforehand, because this is our first time, and this is something really big that happened. We were, I would say, this is a contribution that was much needed. All right.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the time we had. We're 15 minutes overboard, but I think it was time well spent, because we got to cover, I think, most of the questions. Just to say again, I'm sure we have a lot more questions and we can talk about this issue for hours. But we do have an event page, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to post it on the event page, and I'm sure our kind panelists would be more than willing to answer those there. And yeah, thank you so much to the panelists for being so patient and kind and so wise and answering the question, and for all your hard work. And thank you so much for all the audience for your insightful questions and being present and active in the panel discussion. And yeah, if maybe we can hold like a second session of this if people are interested, and yeah, hopefully we can keep the communication going.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in to listen to us and attending this session.
Thank you, everyone. It was very nice to see all of you.
Thank you for the inspiring stories.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
Thank you.
I didn't